We are on air here, both in Sweden and the US, and I'm happy to see you guys. You look really amazing. I know it's an early morning for you guys. I'm really excited to start up this webinar together with other partners on the theme, the Ready for the US and Validate Your Market before you expand. I'm Magnus Burvall, co-founder of Scalex Growth Partner, and I will be the moderator of this session today. And it's great to see so many CEOs and founders, investors, advisors that helping Nordic companies grow internationally being with us here today. It's a great group. And of course, US is the world's largest market, but also one of the most demanding, as probably some of you have already noticed. And what's working in the Nordics doesn't automatically work in the US, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Short agenda overview. Me and Ashley will have an introduction to Scalex, talk a little about our insights and how we work, a little bit more on overall framework. And then our friends from the States, Gert Christen and Matt DiMarsico from US Launching Pad will introduce US really in depth. Great. Sorry. A little words of the speakers then. We have my co-founder Ashley with us, originally born and raised in London. He's 30 years of experience from private equity, some 40 transactions, and today he helps founders build their companies. We have Gert Christen, founder of US Launching Pad. Gert is an innovation strategist with over 25 years experience helping European companies move into the US. And he's a lecturer at the University of California, Berkeley School. We have Matt DiMarsico, a co-founder of US Launching Pad. Matt is a sales and marketing leader. He has helped more than 20 companies coming into the US and market entry. Some of the housekeeping then, we will try to make this as interactive as possible. We have a chat function. I will try to keep it an eye in the chat, and at the end of the session, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. And we will also record this meeting, so we will have an opportunity to revisit the meeting afterwards. Okay, let's move into the content then. So we're going to have some fun here for the next 30 minutes and probably share some interesting knowledge and experience from this group. I think I can't add up how many years of experience we have in the room, but there is quite some. Short introduction to Scalex then. We work with entrepreneurs who dream big, people with ambition to build something real and who know growth doesn't happen by itself. People who know it's a tough and hard journey. Our job is to turn that journey into reality, and we help founders to structure their journey from strategy, funding to scaling and exits, and we call that sprints. So we make it simple. You take one step at a time. And we believe working systematically really improves the odds of success. We are entrepreneurs ourselves. We work in an entrepreneurial manner. And we've been through the climb, ups and downs. You can be sure, both me and Ashley, we've seen the good days and the bad days. That's why we built Scalex, to help others to reach the summit faster with the right system and support. And at Scalex, we love questions. We think that good questions and great questions are a way to find answers. So that's my intro to Ashley. So I will start with a question to Ashley, basically. So what goes wrong and what's common mistakes when going international? What can go wrong?
Yeah, thank you, Magnus. Really great to be here. I'm looking forward to this session and warming up the discussion before we hand over to Matt. And yeah, we're there going to get into the nuts and bolts of the US. So really, I'm going to step back and let's think about this. I thought I'd tell a story. I like stories. When I first moved over to Sweden, I also love hiking and mountaineering, and I have some analogy to international expansion and mountaineering. And I was invited by my wife's brother to go hiking with him and some family members. And I remember we were going to this fantastic cabin, the Blåhammer, where you have to hike up to the top of the mountain and you stay there. You have this wonderful dinner and a sauna, but you have to get there on time, right? So we arrived at the trailhead and they're kind of stressed. We're late already. And, I turn up as well and say, we're going to check the map. And, that didn't go down well. They were saying, actually, no, the path is clearly marked out there. We're just going to get started. We're late. Yeah. So I said, well, I'm going to check the map. Yeah. So I, sort of knelt down, checked the map, worked out that there's going to be a trail fork halfway up. So I thought, we're going to watch out for that one because that's a big left or right. Okay. And when I looked up from the map, the guys had gone. That they had left me. I was too slow thinking, looking at the map. They just rushed off. And quite frankly, I was behind them the whole half the way up until we came to the fork. And of course, the lads who didn't have the map, they'd gone left, of course. Yeah. So when I got there, I realized they'd gone left, gone the wrong way. And, I had to go and get them, they were on the wrong side of the river. I said, guys, you've got to come back. They became more stressed. Fell in the river, we're changing clothes and kind of like cost us 2 or 3 hours, whereas looking at the map cost 5 minutes. Okay. So this is the main point. We're often stressed. So when I meet founders, when I meet companies, you're under pressure, you're in the business. There's a lot going on. And sometimes you don't have the capacity to think, to check the map, right? You want to do. And when I turn up and start talking about checking the map, sometimes people don't like that. Yeah. And when I got another sort of concrete example, when I worked with Specsavers, which is a fantastic business, the founder there is truly an inspirational British entrepreneur. And I always remember they talked about making mistakes. So you can make mistakes, but you need to learn from them. And one of the biggest mistakes they made is the first international country that they expanded to, and that was Holland. So they just, someone came over from Holland and pitched Holland to Doug. Doug thought that was a good idea. He's a doer. He's an entrepreneur. He believes in himself. So they went to Holland, and you could not have picked a worse new market to go to than Holland. It's the most competitive market in the world. And, it's kind of, we spent the next 20 years trying to recover from that market entry. So I remember the first thing I sort of learned from that experience is you do need to structure your workout. Okay. So the biggest mistake you can have is to not step back, look on the situation and have a plan. So that's what I'm looking for. Don't go left when you need to go right. Okay. You need to check that big picture map. Make sense, Magnus?
Yeah, great. And I mean, in that case situation, you describe Doggy was quite a trigger happy man there. But what's the great question maybe should have been asked in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think the other question that comes up, and when we're working at Scalex, like you said, Magnus, it's what you can track is your international expansion. So when you come to the point that you're talking to going to the US and things like that, it's like a pattern of questions. So you're asking a series of questions, and then you're answering those questions, and then you're making decisions. And I think the main question actually, when we look at it, and what you and I, Magnus, and looking at the customers we work, is why. Why are you doing this? Do if you take a mountaineering example, why are you going up? Are you going up Everest, or are you going up Mont Blanc, or what a challenge do you want? Do you have the ambition for that challenge? Why do you want to go to the US? Are your shareholders in line with that as an owner group? So I think the big question is why, because it's a fantastic opportunity, but it's also a big challenge. So you need to know why you're doing it, and what's your ambition level, and what's your risk appetite.
Great. And when you have a big why sorted out and you come in more practical fast, how do you actually do the planning? How it's done? And what are you working when you do this planning?
Yeah, and another good question here. So I've decided, we are going to do that. We are going to do the US, and then I'm looking for that map. Okay, so I'm taking some inspiration from a great entrepreneur. When I talk now, this guy is an exceptional entrepreneur. Love him or hate him, he's an outstanding individual, and that's Elon Musk. Okay, and when I look at his businesses, I was actually just looking at Tesla. He'll plan that business on a road mapping basis. So the large, chunky goals that you're going to achieve with Tesla, you have a roadmap for it. But actually, when you think back on it, he's not thinking about which country he's going to go to. He's thinking about which planet he's going to go to. So he's building a roadmap of companies to get to Mars. Now, for me, that excites me. That's about long-term planning. When you have a long-term horizon, a long-term roadmap, anything is possible. So I expect, what I'm looking for is that long-term roadmap, and then you see where the US fits on the roadmap. And then it matches with why you're going to do it. So have that roadmap, please. You've got a map to look at.
Great metaphor. If you then start this journey, and how do you actually resource the journey? What do you need for resources, and how do you plan out the project?
Yeah, another good question here, because it's going to take resources, isn't it? If you're going to go to any kind of new market, and particularly the US, you're going to need resources. Now, when I worked, for example, at Specsavers, actually, we had a lot of internal funds, so we just need to pitch the idea internally. Is it going to give us a return on investment? But when the scale-ups that we work with, often you don't have those resources, so you're going to have to pitch it to someone else. You're going to have to generate new resource, all right? And then you're going to need to explain, why whoever's going to invest in, why should they invest in that project? Why am I going to go to the States? Yeah. And then often it's going to come down to a couple of key factors. One, you need to increase the value of the company so you can raise funding to do the expansion. Okay. And so you're sort of unlocking, like boxes to go to the next challenge. And what you're also doing there is collecting data. So if you've never climbed a mountain before and you ask for funding to go up Everest, people are going to question your ability. But if it's your 5th 8,000 meter peak, you're going to have credibility. So you want to gather data and credibility. So many people will do a smaller challenge first, get data, increase revenue, and then go for the bigger challenge. So this is, again, what you need to have on your roadmap. And we work with those sprints that Magnus was referring to earlier, and we link valuation to those sprints, because you're going to have to increase the value of the company to unlock the next sprint. The US is the big prize.
Great. How do you succeed then? I mean, you describe a quite challenging journey, a lot of things to think about. What's the key to success?
It's when I think about this question, the underlying one, and I'm sure Matt and Gert are going to talk a little bit about this, and I'm interested to hear their thoughts around it. But of course, you need that customer problem, the product fit, that of course needs to work. So that's like the nuts and bolts of this, I think. In terms of, if you go to the States or you go to a new market, is there a customer group for your product? Yeah. So if you have an outstanding product, it's going to make it easier. But if you look beyond that, what we're talking about here is people quality. We're talking about talent. If you have talented people around you, and many people just sort of think about the C team, but I'm talking here with the owner team to begin with. You have a talented owner team that are funding you and supporting you and understand why you're doing it. And then you also have, for example, a talented board team. And you have advisors, and you have people like Matt and and people on the ground who can give you knowledge. So you're making good decisions. And that I was going to, risk talking about another very unpopular individual in Putin with his international expansion. I don't particularly like his evil master plan, but I'm sure he has an evil master plan. But that's a good example of someone who surrounded themselves with yes men, and he believed he could conquer Ukraine in 2 days, and 3 years later, look at the mess he's in. So you also want to be able to have people around you, and you want an environment where they can say to you, don't do it, that is a bad idea, right? And you need people, and create an environment in the company. You have these talented people, and you make great decisions with those people, and then you have talented in that and talented in the execution. And even for a small company, if you put that as a goal, you're going to achieve it. Get the best people you can afford. Make sense, Magnus?
Absolutely. We've been talking about these five different questions and 5 talking points now. If you would uplift something to the group that are listening here now, that you would like to uplift from some of the cases, some of the things that we're working today on an overall level, before handing over to Gert and Matt, what would be that you would share with them?
Yeah, I think it is really key. You have this not the evil master plan, but the good master plan. You have that master plan, that long-term roadmap. I really want to see that in place, and you have it lined up with your owners. It's so key that. And then, some people it's crazy thinking you can plan 10 years. I mean, Elon does it, right? So we can all plan 10 years, 15 years of a long-term horizons. Get that plan in place, have it written down. Yeah, you can always update it. So like now, you have US on your agenda, and then Matt and turn up and give you some information, makes you think, maybe I should shift US on the agenda. Do you see what I mean? So you have a plan that you can change. So have that long-term roadmap, please. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ashley. I think they're starting to get a good intro now, and like a framework to swinging over to Gert and Matt and invite them to the meeting as our international guests and key speaker and main dish today.
I will hand over to them. I will be going back into the audience now. So good luck.
I assume that many of the ones that are in the meeting today are here because they're interested in the US. So we make sure that we make time for you guys to dig into the content. So I hand over here and get you guys going basically, and I jump out for the meeting myself.
Thank you, Matt.
Minutes.
Thank you, Magnus. Thank you, Ashley. So good morning from it's afternoon for you in Sweden, but Matt and I we're on the west coast of the US. So for us it's early morning. So Matt, how's coffee going?
It's going well. Nice to have all of you here. Hopefully we can impart a little bit of knowledge and experience that we've gained doing this over and over again. So again, US a really, really attractive market, but it does come with its challenges. And so what we'll share here is some of the information about the market, but also some of the methodologies that we think are necessary in order to be successful when you expand into the market.
Yeah, and Matt and I we're the two founders of the company USA Launchpad, and we started this 4 years ago because foreign founders and entrepreneurs, that turn up here in San Francisco or in Los Angeles. In Matt's case, they contacted us and got in touch with us, all having the same problem. Hey, I'm really successful in my home market, and in the case of Europe, and going from one country to the next, to the next, to the next, and really fine-tuned my go-to-market is working very well. And now I'm here came to the US, and we're finding out that the go-to-market that made us successful back home just isn't working here. So I need help to figure out what should I keep and what should I change, and that's what we built. That's initially we helped founder friends doing that, and over time a company grew from that. That we call USA Launchpad, and we use the rockets to launch all of your rockets in the US. So Matt, maybe introduce yourself. Who are you, and why do we know each other and work on this together?
Yeah, Gert and I's journey started a long time ago. We met in business school over 20 years ago. Business school in the US, for those of you who are familiar, a lot of your deliverable is done in small groups, and they put you in a group and you sort of go through the entire program within that group. Gert happened to be in my study group and vice versa. So we've known each other for a very long time. Gert went back to Europe after business school and started building accelerators and incubators in Switzerland. And I have spent the past 25 years building and scaling sales and marketing teams and their peripheral support organizations for what I define as disruptive tech companies. Obviously, that definition has changed over time. What was once disruptive is pretty mainstream today, but the fundamentals remain, right? These are disruptive technologies that change the way we work and live. I've been fortunate enough in that time to have been acquired 4 different times by foreign multinational companies. And I was tasked as the head of sales to bring the foreign portfolio into the US. And these were companies with vast amounts of resources. So I was able to fail multiple times, and figure out the why behind behind the failing, and build a playbook that we've been able to now incorporate in our methodology to avoid the mistakes that were made over and over, that are still made over and over by companies today. If you think about Starbucks trying to enter China and it failed, right? There's these large Walmart trying to enter Germany and failing, right? Large companies still make these mistakes. So what we're going to try to impart here is just some of the basic knowledge as to what to look for and how to prepare when you expand into the US.
Yeah. So together we've done this for 50 companies from 4 different continents. So the methodology is really very, very well proven. And what we're going to do today is we can't cover all the methodology that our engagements take 2 or 3 months, and we have just 10 or 15 minutes. So we will we're breaking this down and share what are the 3 most important ones that in our experience are the starting point to evaluate the US. But why are we so excited about the American market, and why are obviously tech companies from all over the world excited to think of the US market as for their expansion? It's simply that it's bigger than as a market. Global tech spending in the US is bigger than the other markets taken together. So it is the largest market for tech products in the world, which is why it has to be in every entrepreneur's map, because even with a small market share in the US, this is the largest market. It's also growing twice as fast. The tech market in the US grows twice as fast as in Europe. So meaning, if you're looking for growth and if you're looking for a large market, you automatically land on the US in that strategic map that Ashley was talking about. So any tech company looking for growth, you've got to look at the US. And it's this big, incredible country, and that's the size of the market. Oh my God, 380 million people truly under one law, not like the EU where it's, hundreds of millions of people, but under one EU, but 28 laws. And here it's truly just one. But the thing is also to do business. There's one big difference in the US. It is a huge country, and you can fit all of the Nordics in just the Western United States, which brings some challenges with it to do business. For instance, if cost of selling, if you have a sales team, it's very expensive because you have to travel. And if we were, Matt and I, on the West Coast, if we were to fly to New York, it's a flight of 5 hours, and it's 3 hours time difference. That means, you leave here at 8 o'clock in the morning. By the time you get there, it's 4 p.m. By the time you're in your hotel, it's 6 p.m. That's it. Your salespeople unproductive for a day, and travel cost. So that brings some challenges, which also means you have to make good decisions how to start and where to start.
Yeah. And one of those components is really while it is a big country, there are industrial concentrations that you need to consider dependent on what you do and who you sell to.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the key, how to pick well where to start to build your references and initial customers. Number 2, what is a complication that, unfortunately, we're not alone, and typically no American customer or companies is waiting for someone, from a faraway land with a funny accent to sell products to, because there is a lot of competition here. So second thing is that leads to really have to choose your battles, because there will be domestic companies here that very often in the tech sector are also at least as well funded as yourself, if not better. So it's not a white map that you can just go and sell. There is hard competition here, and which means that if you take these 2 things together, that yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. If you get it right, it'll fuel your growth, and it'll fuel your growth and business for many years to come, like no other market can. But at the same time, it is risky. It is risky because we're not alone. It's a big country to serve, and they do business in a different way. And we've seen this 50 times with all of our customers, that your working assumption should be that your go-to market that made you successful, say in Europe, will not work in the US. It's just that American decision makers, they react to different value propositions. American companies procure things a little bit different, which means if you come with your marketing campaign, you might burn a lot of money trying to talk to the wrong people. And so really that is the, if I could sum up, I don't know about you, Matt, but if I sum up one thing that I've learned in 4 years with 50 clients, is this: do not believe that the go-to market that made you successful in your home region will work in the US. Be cautious.
There's 60% of foreign startups fail within 3 years. That was a study that came out of Harvard about 3 years ago. And it really is because there's a difference between the expectation and the reality, right? The expectation is there's a massive opportunity, there's easy capital access, and you'll scale with your existing playbooks. And the reality is there are different buyers, there are different processes, there are different expectations, right? And you guys all know that, managing customer expectations is key to any sales process, right? And so, our objective is to validate it before you try to scale, right? And this is, we'll share a little of the framework and some of the questions to ask, but it really is, it's a huge market, but there's definitely differences in the buying process. So definitely do your homework first. Ask those questions to Ashley's point, check the map, right? It really is worth the effort.
Exactly. And so let's try to draw this map. What are the questions you should be asking? And one key concept is that, it's kind of simple. Just test before you go. Do small tests, little investments before you go all in. And it puzzles me sometimes here in San Francisco, where, every day startups from abroad land here and are trying to figure out how to sell in the US. And nobody would ever launch a product without testing it. But it seems that people launch themselves into the biggest tech market in the world without testing it first. Why? If you look at it this way, use this principle of test before you go as a way to reduce your risk. And if you do this smartly, and that we'll explain how we do that. As we draw this map, if you do it smartly, you can de-risk and actually accelerate at the same time. And so let's dive in. This is what we learned: how you test any new country, including the US, before you go. So those are the questions that you should get answers to in order to find out what we call what is the product, market, and channel fit for any country, including the US. And Magnus will send all of you who participate afterwards kind of checklists and forms that provide a little bit more detail behind each of these questions to stimulate your questioning and reasoning. So these are the 7 questions. We don't have time for all of them, but how can you find out as much as you can? And we propose, if you had only a week in the US, or if you get started out, these, in our experience, are the 3 most important ones. Ask who are our customers in the US, and test whether that hypothesis is correct. And once you found an answer to that question, then find out, okay, how do they want to buy from us? And we'll show you an example. We find over and over that American companies just procure products and services a little bit different from European ones, which means that if you don't have the documentation, then the deal falls apart. And last but not least, what product do they actually want to buy? So there's always going to be some adjustments to make the product fit in the US, again, in order to avoid that the deal falls apart at the last moment because there was one API or one compatibility was missing, and now that other manager is going to kill the deal.
And there's a cost to getting this wrong, right? Failed US entries cost anywhere between $750,000 to $1.5 million, and that's CB Insights came up with this data, right? So validation saves 30 to 40% of entry costs, is also what they say, and between 6 and 12 months in time, right? So all this stuff that you're doing, this check the map, right? It really does in the end save time, save money, and definitely ensures de-risks your market entry, right?
Exactly. So and to the first question, an example of what does that mean? Who are our customers? They don't want their name mentioned, but this was a UK company that wanted to expand to the US, and that is a smart building technology. So kind of sensors and an IoT platform and software tied into the building automation of construction. And in the UK, they sell this very happily to the building management companies and the argument is you're going to save money on heating, cooling, and electricity, and you can calculate the return of investment, and that's a good one. And so the companies that manage the buildings and are responsible for the cost, they will buy this. They came to the US and started marketing to the same group with the sales proposition. Hey, we can save you a ton of money of your costs running the building. And to their surprise, there was just zero interest. There's just zero interest, which to them, they were puzzled and thought, don't American building managers want to save money? And so they came to us for help to figure out what's wrong, what are we doing wrong, what do we need to change. And in the end, it turned out that in the US, if you're a company managing a building, that's the only thing you can influence. Actually, you get the building lock, stock, and barrel the way it is, and that's why real estate firms don't care about any equipment, because they get the equipment from the building owner and they just have to manage. So if you want to sell equipment to make buildings smarter or lower their operating costs, you have to go sell to the architects and the general contractors who specify what goes into the building. It's a completely different group than the way it works in the UK. You might have to do that. In the US, a lot is new construction, and in the UK, a lot is maybe renovations or retrofitting and so on. But this company was, spent a lot of money trying to talk to the wrong group, and they got zero response. So imagine if you could just talk to 10 building managers and 10 companies that manage buildings and 10 companies that construct buildings, they would have found this out. And this is kind of the approach that USA Launching Pad takes, to conduct interviews, very structured, very methodical interviews directly with potential customers. Yeah. So thank God today they are successful in the US, because they've changed their approach. They now go to construction trade shows, and they build, they send samples and thought leadership material to architects to get them to specify.
Yeah, and this is again one of those myths, right? That you're going to be able to come in and you can hire a sales rep in the US and they'll fix everything, right? They'll figure it out. But without the right validated messaging, without the right understanding of the process and the ICP, which is, I won't say this is the the most common finding, right? We're giving you guys a little bit of the of some of the bigger things that can happen, but fine. Even if most of the time your customers are the same, right? You still need to determine how they buy and answer those questions, back to Ashley, which was talking about the why, right? Yeah, there's the why you want to expand, but once you've determined that, there's the why that customers need to understand. Why you, why now, right? And those are the questions that you need to start understanding and incorporating into your messaging in order to gain that mind share and be attractive to a US buyer.
Right. Exactly. And once that is clear and validated in the sense of tests before you go, and then the next question to ask and to explore in our experience, okay, so now that I know which customers are interested in solving a problem that my products can help, now ask them, okay, the question to ask is then, okay, how does your company buy products like ours? And just listen. And this is what we did for Pearltech. Pearltech is a company that sells equipment and supplies into the radiology departments in hospitals. And in Europe, they sell to doctors basically, and they tell the doctor, oh, you can take better X-ray pictures or higher resolution, all these things. And then if the doctor wants it, then their hospital will organize whatever they need to do to get the doctor the equipment that he says, I need this to treat our patients better. In the US, and it's just an example here, but that's what we mean with, American companies often buy products and services in a different way than in Europe. So what we found out with Pearltech, and it's since then, we've had several customers in the healthcare space, and the pattern is always the same. In the US, the doctor is only one of a buyer's group. So this is a buying committee decision where the doctor will have input into the decision, and his criteria will be: should we buy this widget or not? He will support it if he can see this increases the quality of care. So it's good for our patients. The outcome, the medical outcome is better. But he's only one. The chief nurse or technicians that actually operate the equipment, they will also have their say, and they will say, does it fit into our procedures? And they will say, okay, and then if it adds any additional steps, they will say that no, I can't support that we get this equipment, because then our treatment takes longer, for instance, and we only get paid a fixed amount for every, broken leg, take an X-ray of a broken leg. And so if that takes longer, then I can do less X-rays a day. And so no, it doesn't work for me. But even him, that's only one. That the next one will be, there's a profession that I didn't know it even existed, health economists. Healthcare companies in the US, they have these professionals, and every hospital has one. And he's the one who's now to calculate the return on investment. So kind of what's the economic return? And if the return isn't there, then they will kill the deal. And if all of these three agree, then still in the end, the deal gets passed to a formal procurement department. With lawyers who are important in the US, because liability is a big concern for everyone, and being sued, or hopefully not being sued, is another big concern for everyone. And so the procurement department will very, very rationally and without any emotions look at, okay, is this compliant with everything that we have decided this should be compliant with? And even there, if there is one regulation or one quality standard that our equipment doesn't comply with, even then the deal can die. So this is to say, we wanted to bring this example because healthcare is very special. But thank God that Thomas here, he he had interviews with all these stakeholders, and so his company, they could prepare all the documentation that the different groups needed so that the deal would never die, and in the end, go through, and they would have a sale. So this is why, the question to ask is, okay, tell me, Mr. American Manager, how does your company buy products and services like ours? Give me some examples, and just listen, because they will explain who is involved in the decision and what the process is. And often, our learning is unfortunately different than what we're used to.
And that also, this all informs ultimately your go-to-market messaging, right? Now you understand the unique buyer personas that you need to engage with, and taking it a step down, right? What do they expect? What do they need to understand through the buying process in order to buy your product? And one of the things that might come out of this is they say, we buy this through our existing partner channel, right? So that's where we say this product.
Good point, yes.
Right? Sometimes they don't go direct, and then you need to pivot to understand the dynamics in the distribution market, and what does a channel player look like, and how does that work in the US market? So that simple question can really uncover a lot of amazing detail that helps you navigate US market entry.
Right. Thank you. And the third question that we suggest to start asking when you think about expanding to the US is, what products do US customers really want? And this goes back to if it's software, very often there are requirements that you must have these APIs, or my CTO, or a company CTO will not approve the purchase of the product. This is often integration with some backend systems, so you need to find out what are the most prevalent backend systems in your industry, or for your customers in the US. And one example to bring here is this is a Typewise. Y Combinator company, actually after US launching pad with their new go-to-market strategy, they were admitted to Y Combinator and have since raised millions, and are a growing tech company now. But they started with an AI. They created an AI to help us type better. So a better, they could show in tests that they did better, error correction than Gmail, than Google, for instance. And they packaged this into a smartphone keyboard that had on-device error correction. And they won lots of prizes, including at CES in Las Vegas and so on, but couldn't find any customers in the US for that product. Which puzzled them, because they said, well, but it's better, and people can write better, and they make less mistakes. But it seemed that in the US, that just wasn't a big pain point that anyone was interested in solving. However, when some companies heard that, they said, "Did you say you can do typing error correction on device? That's really interesting, because I'm a bank. And my client managers, they use WhatsApp and Gmail to communicate with their customers. Of course, they shouldn't, but they should use, on their company devices, because now all this information, with WhatsApp, it goes to Facebook and Meta, and with Gmail, it goes to Google, and that shouldn't happen. But I don't have a better alternative for them. But if you can do typing correction on the device, then that's really good, because now my client managers can write correctly and properly, and it doesn't leave, and the text doesn't leave doesn't go to a third party, which is important, because we're a bank, and what they discuss is a privileged conversation. So in the end, this product ended up becoming a B2B sale, an enterprise sale. We tested different market segments for Typewise, teasing to find out where is the biggest response. So that's this type of test before you go. We tested 3 different market segments, 3 different types of companies, and it turned out that call centers were the ones that were most interested, because for them, for for their employees. If they can, handle a case in half a minute quicker, it saves them a lot of money. So this product completely changed what Typewise had started with. Right.
Yeah.
So these were the kind of three questions to ask. We don't have time here to go through all the detail, but this there are some starting points, and Magnus, you will share the information with the audience, a little bit more detail. And last but not least, this here takes it's only for an hour, but this testing and figuring out step by step, validating what is the best way to go to the US. We do this every day in the different models, different programs that are here on the screen, depending kind of where you are and what your objectives are for the US.
Yeah. And right here, we've shared 3 of the questions that we start with. We have a 12-point go-to-market framework that gets very granular, that just helps to continually inform better engagement with your customers and the market, to de-risk, right? So price elasticity, competitive landscape, messaging, right? All the things that you need to really ensure that you're meeting the demands of the market, that you're competing with the other tech companies that are trying to win the same customers, and you're winning the mind share that you need in the US market. So happy to answer more questions and talk more for you guys.
Yeah. And last but not least, you will come to America, and then Americans they like Sweden, so you will already have that going for you, and you should benefit. They might not know your company, and they might not be able to maybe point at the map where Sweden is, but they will know IKEA, and if we're lucky, they will know Spotify as great Swedish companies.
Super, thank you very much. And if they are from Chicago, they know the Swedish Vikings as well. I have friends living there. They always want to go to some Viking museum or something here in Stockholm. Great, guys. I mean, you summed it up really, really good. And I realized that in this short period of time, we can't go through everything, but it's really, I think, it really unlocked the importance of the US market when we see your initial slides, that this is a market that, as a growth entrepreneur, you need to keep an eye on this market, and you need to address it properly, as we've been talking about here today. Systematically. I like that word, and I'm keeping an eye in the chat. I have a couple of questions myself. As you speak, it raises a lot of questions in my head. After you've done the validation, where to choose, where can I have my office? Do I need a US office? Do I need to have US personnel? Or can I fly over the Swedes? What works? We need to have that on a follow-up session later on. But as a tool, after that, we will send out some valuable checklists and tools as a follow-up, and we will share all of our contact details. So if any of you in the webinar want to reach out to us, always welcome to do. Also thank my colleague Ashley as a speaker today, that kind of painted in the form of stories how to start thinking when going out internationally. So let's wrap up and wish you all a good afternoon here in Sweden, and you guys in the US have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.